Hello. So I thought I would do a build video about one of the builds I get the most questions about from players in the game and players outside of it. And it is a very fun build. And I figured I'd go over the stats first because these are a lot more important than other build videos I've done. So for this one, you really want to get to 60% critical hit chance or as close as you can get to it. It doesn't matter if you go like 1 or 2% over it, but you really want to get to 60%. I have a, and then you dump the rest into critical hit damage, and with the backfire, I have 166.1, and I haven't even maxed that out yet. Um, and then for this version of the build, I have 1.3 million armor and 1.1 million health. The health isn't going to change across the three builds that I'm going to show you, but I am showing you the one that I like the most first. And this is a Ridgeway's Pride Devil's Due build. Now there's going to be quite a bit of information in this video because these are a little bit oddball. You don't really come across these too often, and I imagine not too many players even know what Devil's Due is. And it's a named Seska backpack. And I'm running the 3-piece Seska for the 90% health because health is very important on this build. But Devil's Due gives you perfect clutch. If you're below 20% armor, critical hits repair 2.5% missing armor, and kills allow you to repair up to 100% armor for 4 to 10 seconds based on the number of red core attributes. Now this is a normalized talent, so in the Dark Zone, um, kills only allow you to repair up to 4 seconds no matter what. No matter how many red cores you got, you'll only ever get 4 seconds. And another important thing to note if you do play this is that you don't actually have to kill downed players to trigger clutch. You can just down an opponent and that will give you your clutch proc to allow you to heal up to 100% for 4 seconds. So that's what makes this a little bit viable is you go after the squishy first and then you can fight the rest of the team. Now, I've gone with 3 blues. That's to make my clutch heals a little bit better so I can survive a little bit longer. I know most players will probably go like a 6 red setup, but I just don't find that viable most of the time, and I'll get into that a little bit later why. But the other piece that makes this one survive so much is Ridgeway's Pride. If you don't know what it does, it gives you the talent called Bleeding Edge, and you shoot an enemy within 15 meters and you apply bleed, and then you repair 3 to 48% of your armor per second for every enemy that is bleeding within 15 meters. Repair strength per number of bleeding enemies is 1 is 3%, 2 is 6%, which is all you need. You just need 2 people bleeding, and then you have like really good sustain. And then 3 to 5 isn't always viable, but it is really fun if you can pull it off. Having that many people bleeding, you're never gonna die. It's so much fun. And yeah, these two together is surprising how well it works. And when it comes to the SMGs, it doesn't really matter which one you choose, but how many crit damage mods changes depending on which one you're using, right? So for the backfire, you get away with 3 of them, and that's because backfire has a mod on it that gives you 15% critical hit chance, so you're at 60% on the button. And I do like backfire on this build, just because it hits so hard, and I like it on another one. But the 850 RPM is a little bit rough. It's like just enough to keep you alive, but it makes up for that based on its damage, right? You don't have to survive as long as the other ones do. Ouroboros is like probably my personal favorite one to be running on clutch builds. Just solely that it's always 1400 RPM. It doesn't change. But when you do run it, it only comes with 10% extra critical hit chance, so you have to put one more crit chance mod on your build to reach 60. Well, technically you'll be at 61, but yeah. In the rule them all, when you pull this one off is really funny because you're running 3-piece Seska, you get an additional 20% hazard protection, putting you at 30% just because of the 2 set bonus in your watch. So you don't get hit that hard by their status effect, but you smack them right back with it. So it's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's really good at keeping you alive, especially in the ones, because it's always at 1400. Chatterbox, I don't like it too much on this setup. There's another setup I do like it on, but it is like the king of keeping you alive, like hands down. Because when you have two stacks of Chatterbox, you're like I think around 50 RPM slower than the Ouroboros, and then 3, 4, 5 stacks all outperform Ouroboros. Now the whole reason I don't like it on the Ridgeway Pride setup is because you mag dump at like 3 and more stacks way too fast, and you're stuck in the unfortunate phase of reloading when your clutch is active, when you're below 20%. So I don't like it too much on this setup, but when you do get it to work, it's nasty on this setup. It functions on all three of them very well. When it comes to the golds, I've tried it out with Dark Winter. I don't really like it in PvP too much because you're not getting your damage until you kill someone with a crit, which is a little bit too much luck based in here since we're already relying on clutch to keep us alive. But you can make it work. Um, I've tried it with the P90. I don't mind it. It is 1100 RPM, so it's decent at keeping you alive. And it has a bigger mag than a 45 ACP at 50 rounds, but it's in the same boat as Ouroboros. You can only have 2 mods on it, so you only get 10% critical hit chance on it. So that kind of sucks. I wasn't using P90 on this setup. I was using it on a different one. That's why this has Optimist instead of Sadist. But if you do use it on here, definitely run Sadist. Uh, this is the other one I use, is the Vector 45 ACP. I like this almost as much as I like the Ouroboros because it does the same job of keeping you alive pretty well because it's only 200 RPM slower, but you do a lot more damage because you can run Sadist, so you get 20% amp damage to bleeding enemies. So that's a lot of fun. You crit for around like 90k on this build with the Vector, so you do pretty decent damage, but you have 5 rounds less than the Ouroboros. Like it's a little bit worse than the Ouroboros at keeping you alive, but better at doing damage. Now, if you want the same survivability as the Vector, but the mag size that's bigger, like the Ouroboros, you can run the 9mm. And yeah, you would just get one with Sadist. Mine has Optimist because I was using it on different stuff, but Optimist still works just fine on this build. But Sadist is worth a lot more damage. The other setup that I've been running is a Provocateur setup. For this one, I highly recommend either running Chatterbox or Ouroboros. And in case you don't know what Provocateur does, in the Dark Zone, you receive 20% damage resistance from enemies within 15 meters. So it makes your clutch 20% better is all it essentially does. But I went with a 4 blue setup on this one because this one's supposed to be a little bit tankier. So you have 1.5 million armor and 1.1 million health, giving you an effective health pool of 2.6 million. And the last one, and I use this one the second most, where is it? This one is a Catharsis build with Devil's Due. Except for I run a Seska Obliterate, crit damage health again. This one I prefer Backfire the most, like just because this one is supposed to be the high damage variant, and you do a lot of damage with this setup. You'll start critting for over 200k with the Backfire on this setup, and you still got 60% critical hit chance, right? So for this one, you do have to put a crit chance mod on there for getting 60%. And if you run any of the others that have 10%, you have to put one more on. But yeah, this one does the most damage. It doesn't survive as well as the Ridgeway's Pride one, but it hits way harder. So you don't have to survive as long. And Catharsis goes really good with Clutch because it's essentially armor regen, except for you stealing it from other people. Now, one of the biggest issues with running a health tank build like this, because that's essentially what you are, is when you come across like striker bighorn builds or high damage bighorn builds. It's kind of why I've put more armor on this one, because it'll survive those ones a little bit better. But all assault rifles, as everyone knows, get 21% health damage. So in the state that you're supposed to be the most tanky, you suddenly become the most vulnerable to bighorn builds because they'll hit you way too hard. So if you have your heart set on trying to run a clutch build into a bighorn lobby, swap out Obliterate for Unbreakable. That'll make your life so much easier because you'll be able to survive a little bit better and out trade them. And yeah, these are really fun builds. And it is a different play style than you'll get used to, but these are all really good at the 1vx fights and just sustaining far longer than anybody else. I don't know if I talked about this, but the other brand set bonus that I went with was Palisades. So you have two options when it comes to this. You have this one, which gives you 10% armor on kill and 60% health, which is what you're really after, but the 10% armor on kill actually does come in clutch, pun intended. And the other one you could choose is Gila Guard, because it'll give you 5% armor as the 1 set bonus and 60% health as the 2 set bonus. So that one's a playstyle choice, but I really like Palisade for sustaining yourself through fights because you will be killing a lot of people. All of these builds hit really hard, and they're really good at outlasting everybody else. And yeah, they do take practice to get used to these builds, for sure. But once you can get used to them, they're a ton of fun, and it reminds me of like old school D2, running around as a health tank with clutch. But yeah, in the meantime, y'all have a wonderful day.